Hello, love. Hello, Terry. Hello, Juan. How are you doing? It's so good to see
Good,
you all.
good. How are you?
Good, good, good. Hey,
Yeah,
listen,
you too.
we're waiting for everyone to start logging in. And once the participants log in, we'll get rolling. Maybe we'll give them about 5 minutes to log in. Early birds, thank you for being here. We're really happy to have you. How y'all doing so far,
Thanks for
love,
having
Juan,
me.
and Terry?
I'm doing well. Starting the 3-week vacation. Really excited.
One
Yeah,
more week than I have. I got 2 weeks, so I'm not complaining though. I'm excited about it.
nice, nice. Oh, love, I think you're on mute.
There it
There
is.
you go. Yeah.
All right, here we go. We're in. Vacation means a full house. So it's like, kids are on. It's exciting time. It's I think we needed it, that spirit of the holidays and feeling good and doing good for others. So it's gonna be good.
Absolutely. You have three little ones, right, love?
I do. Yeah, I have three little ones, first grader, third grader, and a fourth grader. And so
Wow.
it's
Oh,
all
that
about
sounds fun.
It's all about projects. They're making gingerbread houses. They're wrapping up their class sessions right now. So, it's good. It's good.
And Dr. Cecchine, you have fourth graders now that you're teaching?
Kindergarten through third grade. Yeah, I'm now the literacy specialist. So I get to teach reading to all the young ones, which is exciting over this Zoom environment.
Right.
But I have a 5-year-old at home too, so that's always fun.
Yeah.
Lots of projects, lots of candy canes.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And Juan, I guess we all have one thing in common. We all have little ones running around the house. Juan, you have a 9-month-old?
Yeah, 9 months. 9 months. He just turned 9 months. We had his 9 month visit this morning, so he had to get a shot. He's growing up quick, man. It feels like it was just yesterday when we brought him back from the hospital, and now he's like crawling everywhere trying to get into the cabinet, and we got to be chasing after him.
Now, all he knows is the world of quarantine, right? Because he's born and then quarantine hits, right?
Yeah. We've been trying to find ways to make efforts for him to get to know some people. It's kind of difficult right now, but he does pretty well with it when people are around him. So we're hoping that it won't affect him too much as he gets older.
All right.
Juan, I know you didn't ask for it, but I'm going to give it to you, man. Because when I heard this, they said they grow up fast and it moves fast. And I didn't really think about it, but those were the special days, man. 9 months, those early years, and they do grow up fast, So enjoy it. Enjoy it.
I'll take it all in, soak it all in as much as I can.
So
Progress.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. Welcome, participants. Thank you for being here. We're just giving people a couple more minutes to check in. Maybe we'll start right at 1:05. But I was just about to say, Juan, and I think Love, and Terry will agree. I remember they were tiny, and you smell them, and they smell like babies. Like, ah. And then they reach a certain age where that baby smell goes away, and all of a sudden, at least for my kids, they start smelling like little goats. So it goes from that sweet baby smell to like, oh, we need to give you a shower.
Yes. Especially when you have to remind them all the time to get in the shower.
Yeah.
That's the best. That's the best.
So welcome, folks. Thanks for logging in the chat. If you can, let us know where you're visiting from, where you're logging in from, what city, what community, and it'd be great for us to see. So we'll get started. I got to make introductions of this incredible group of human beings, and I'll just get rolling. We'll start Juan. Juan Terrazas is no stranger to adversity. At 5 years old, Juan's parents migrated from Ciudad Juarez to Dallas, Texas. At age 14, his father was deported to Mexico, and his mother returned to care for her dying father. So Juan was on his own. He stayed in Dallas, and at age 15, began to jump around from place to place. He'll tell you a little bit of his journey. He managed to get through school, and now he has a big announcement to make, and I'll let him make the announcement. But he pursued his dreams. He continued to persist. He showed his resilience, and now he's prospering as a professional. And he'll tell you about his story in a little bit. Dr. Terri Cecchine has been working with elementary education for the last 4 years. She has been a wrestling coach for the last 12 years in various schools and down the state of California. She received her BA from UC Santa Barbara, MA from University of San Francisco, second MA from UC Santa Barbara, along with her PhD doctorate degree in 2019. I mean, she's got all these credentials, but you know what defines a person is not so much their credentials, is the character that they have and the strength that they carry inside. And she will be talking about that internal strength and how she was able to overcome adversity. She spent her adult life, she has spent her adult life working with students in many capacities: YMCA, Boys and Girls Club, coaching wrestling, teaching 7th to 12th grade, and now K to 3. And she has the incredible background of teaching college students, Chicano studies, and being a coach and empowering females through wrestling. And she does this through her dedication to her coaching, her research on the female experience, as well as through her foundation, which is called Feminism, Wrestling, Equality. How about that, huh? She started to raise funds for scholarships for female wrestlers in the state, and she has an announcement to make later on in the conversation. Love Jefferson earned his bachelor's degree in sociology and economics from Washington State University, where he spent most of his time off the field supporting activity and conference organizing with the WSU Multicultural Student Center. He was born in LA, of African-American father and American Samoan immigrant mother. Love's mother, one of 10 children herself, moved to the US from the Polynesian Islands to study nursing and follow the American dream of creating a better life. She became a caregiver for seniors and the young. And guess what? With his football, with his strength, Love was named by Sports Illustrated among the top 10 players at his position in the country during his junior year of college. How about that? He also ended up with a Pac-10 championship and Rose Bowl appearance in 1998. His success led him into the NFL. After graduating in 1999, he joined the Chicago Bears. He's a former NFL football player as offensive tight end. So he's done a lot of great work, and now he works with companies and nonprofit organizations in service to students and young professionals looking to increase self-worth, sense of belonging, and self-belief in achieving success. His message is rooted in safety, support, and sense of belonging. I know the audience is excited to see you all speak, so I'm just going to get right to it. And without further ado, let's start with Juan. Juan, the first question here is, please tell us a little bit about your background. What are some adversities you faced, and how did you overcome those adversities?
Yeah. So thank you so much for the introductions, Dr. Rios. So just as Dr. Rios mentioned earlier, my dad got deported when I was 14 years old. My mom had to go back to Mexico at the same time. My grandpa was dying at the time, so she went to go take care of him. So at 14 years old, I was on my own, just house hopping. I got kicked out at the age of 15 by my cousin's boyfriend, whom I lived with at the time. So just trying to figure out how to survive, where I was going to get my next meal, who was going to take me in. And through that time, I just decided to continue going to school. I told myself that I'm going to continue going. I don't care what happens as long as I graduate school. That was really one of the main goals I had in mind. So I struggle so much, not only trying to find a home, but also just mentally and emotionally trying to figure out if anybody even cared for me, or if anybody really wanted to, if I was even accepted. I was undocumented. I didn't have any documentation being born in Mexico. My parents brought me when I was 5 years old. So it was tough just trying to fit in, and just wondering if I even had a purpose. That I remember so many times just walking home from school and just trying to tell myself that one day all this is going to be worth it. As many times as I wanted to quit, I remember just walking down certain streets and just wanted to sit down and just say, you know what, I just want to call it quits. I'm just tired of it. I'm emotionally drained. I don't really have a home. If I did have a home I was living with at that time, I didn't feel like I belonged because it wasn't my immediate family. So I still just, I don't know what got into me, but I felt something inside of me, like my conscience was speaking to me, telling me that, hey, you have so much more to live for, that your life is not over yet. So I just kept going. I graduated high school in 2008. I went to a community college and I graduated from there in 2011. All this was in Dallas, Texas. And just recently also, I just turned 30 this year. And I just recently graduated with my bachelor's degree in communication and a minor in psychology from the University of Texas at the Permian Basin. So it's been a tough road. It's been pretty difficult. But I recently read a post on Instagram where somebody said that, hey, life is hard, and just gave different explanations. It's just a matter of you choosing your hard life. So one of the examples was that, hey, obesity is hard, but also being disciplined and staying healthy is hard. So you choose your heart. And that made me think about my life too, because as hard as my life was, I chose to make decisions that would affect my future, as hard as it was. So I feel like I'm reaping a lot of the things that that I've sown into my life from when I was younger as a youth. So this year I became a citizen. I got my firstborn son, my first child. And as I said, I graduated with my bachelor's of communication degree. And it's just amazing to see where I'm at today. I couldn't be here on my own. I had so many people that I stood on their shoulders, and I was able to see far ahead. So I learned to get vision. I learned to see purpose and realize that I have so much more potential, that I have something to offer to people. And that's really a message that I want other people to realize, is that, hey, you have a message also. Without a test, there's no testimony, you know? So you might be going through a test today, and that right now is kind of preparing you for later on in life. So
that's profound. Hey, I'm gonna quote the scholar Juan Terrazas, who says, "Without a test, there ain't no testimony." Hey, Juan, man, we say it in Spanish. Se me enchina el cuerito, right? Like, I got goosebumps just listening to your story, man. I mean, you're abandoned, left alone, raising yourself on the streets, and you decide that you want to reach a life of positivity. You project that for yourself, and look at you now, man. We're proud of you. Thank you for being here to share your story. Shout out to the teachers right now that are streaming live to their students in their classrooms right now. Lots of students are watching because the teacher has this on. And students, shout out to you. Listen to Juan. I mean, he was struggling. His parents are in Mexico. He has no parents around. He's a teenager, 14 years old, and he makes it through. Whew. All right, let's move on. Now, next, we have Dr. Terri Cecchine. And same with you, Dr. Cecchine. Let us know, hey, what adversities did you face growing up, and how did you overcome those?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much, Juan, for sharing that with us. I appreciate it, and the courage it takes to share with everyone, right, to talk about our struggles. And I appreciate everyone here listening to us today. So mine was a little similar, a little different, right? Like I said, we all have our own adversities, and my mom was a single mother. She grew up raising my sister and I, working kind of jobs that weren't going to have any opportunities for her. And we were kind of nomadic. We moved around a lot. And at the time, I didn't realize that was a financial issue. It was for instability, right? We didn't have a lot of financial security. And my mom had some issues of her own that she was going through in terms of addiction. And it was really hard for my mom to teach my sister and I to love ourselves. And I want to say that in the most honesty is that as a young woman, your mother is the one that should be teaching you those things. And my dad wasn't around. He left when I was young. But my mom had a hard time with that. And I think that as I grew up, you know, not having basic hygiene needs met, not having basic food needs met, and not understanding why those things were happening from her was very challenging. And so I was told a lot when I was little I wasn't going to be good enough, or I wasn't going to amount to anything, or there was no future for me. And that really got into my head as a young child. You know, I'm a teacher now, and when we tell our students that they're illiterate or that they can't do something, you know, over and over again, we start to internalize those things. And so I followed the path of negativity, and I got into some drug addiction myself. I got into some gangs that made me feel like they were really my family and made me feel accepted and wanted, and that I was going to be anything I wanted, which in itself was a false reality. I came to realize. So I didn't spend a lot of time at home. From a young age, from about 11, I was doing some things that weren't going to benefit me at all. And I had a really big turning point in watching a couple of my friends lose their lives. And this was something to me that it stopped me in my tracks, and it made me realize that this situation could be temporary or it could be my life. And something inside of me always made me think that I wanted to have more than a life that I was surrounded by. And I want, you know, students out there to remember that your environment is only temporary. The situation you're in is temporary. You do have the power to change that. And, you know, I echo my colleague Juan saying that, you know, you want to give up, you want to quit, and something inside of you says, don't. Listen to that voice, because that's what's telling you that you are worth it, you know, and that's where this self-value came from. I really had to teach myself that I was valuable. I had to love myself. I had to know what I brought and what I was able and capable of. And it's really hard to do that when you have a lot of negative environmental factors. So I do want to echo and understand that. But I always knew that I was a little bit different. I knew that I wanted something more. I would keep my mind on the future, and I was going to work hard. And I want to bring something up in that the system or the cycle of generational poverty doesn't just happen. It takes a lot to come into this generational poverty. My mom didn't just birth me into it. She was born into it, and it was very hard for me to break, and I'm still trying. Maybe my children might be able to break that cycle, but it's something that has to change, and it has to start with one person. And for me, it's very hard. It's been very hard. My mom was actually diagnosed with cervical cancer when I was 19, and I had Santa Barbara. And so she really motivated me to keep going. I was able to work hard. I had 4 jobs at the time, you know, so I'm no newbie to working hard, but it was something that in my heart, I still knew I needed to work. I wasn't there yet. I wasn't where I needed to be, or I knew I could get. And I'm still, that mindset I still have. I know I still have to work hard. I know I still have more places I want to go. So during this time of me not being at home, I found wrestling, and I found it to be a sport that was extremely difficult. And you can't really participate in activities that work your physical or make you physically weak if you're participating in wrestling or any sport. It's just not really going to work out for you. And so that really broke my addiction cycle. I involved myself in school. I tried to join as many clubs and things as I could to meet people that were different, that had different mindsets, that could show me different lifestyles that I wasn't used to. You know, and in that regard, I was embarrassed where I lived. I lived in a trailer park. I didn't bring people to my house. I didn't invite them over. I didn't want to get off the bus in front of my house. I walked, you know, miles home, but I knew I had to get out of that. And so I tried to interject myself in a different life. It was hard. It was embarrassing. I didn't have everything those kids had. But the resilience inside of me kept me going. And I knew that those people I meant opportunities for me. And that's the one other thing I will say is find opportunities. I felt very stuck, very trapped. And you might have those feelings. They were overwhelming. But I knew that they were financial, that it was environmental, it was temporary. it was something that if I wanted to persevere, I knew in my heart I would change. And so I refused to live that life. And I instill that in my students today. I see a lot of kids that are going through similar tracks that I might have went down. And it's really empowering to be able to tell them that, hey, I've been there. It's going to be hard. But you can do it. At least one person believes in you, and that person is me. So thank you so much for listening.
Wow. That is powerful, from drug addiction to then empowering young women to then being a PhD. Wow, that's an incredible journey. Thanks for sharing. Your story is so pertinent. The other day, this week, in the beginning of the week, I gave a presentation to 2,500 high school students. And one of the students, they put in the chat their stories, because only you can see it as the panelist. And it's powerful stories that young people are going through. And one of the young ladies talked about the same thing you just talked about, not having a mother that was available, because in her case, her mother had PTSD from being in the military. She couldn't be there. And she had to learn the basics of just what young women have to go through on her own. She had no one there. So for young women to hear this, I think it's empowering to hear, hey, I'm not alone, and there's other women out there that have gone through what I'm going through. Powerful. Thank you for sharing. All right, now we're moving on to Mr. Love Jefferson. Mr. Love Jefferson is no stranger to adversity either, whether on the field or in the field of life. He's kind of had to face those hurdles and overcome them. And so, Love, tell us a little bit about some of the adversities you face and what you've done to overcome them.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks everybody for being able to just check it out and allow us to share our stories. The interesting thing is we all have them. You have them, and it's when you start looking at them and thinking about them, speaking them, journaling about them, you realize how powerful your individual story is. And so it's like movies are written about people like you, and not just us on the panel. It's like who's viewing this and those that are checking this out. I was born in 1976, so I'm a bit of an old bull, and I always felt like I didn't realize when I was going to be on the other side of actually being older. But I guess for those that are watching, I guess I'm the older side, And so 1976 in Los Angeles, in the country, there were a lot of things going on, a lot of things similar to what's happening now. And so we lived in LA. We had a really nice house. I remember at the age of 6, that was like my first thought of like adversity, right? Age 6, my father decides, this place that we're living, this area that we're living, we can't do it. It's just getting too bad. So we gotta get up out of here. And so he had the foresight to move us out to Orange County because we had some relatives that were out there. And in the 80s, we were the only ones on the block when we moved to Orange County. And now it wasn't that we moved from, our 4-bedroom house and everything that we had our own space and we were comfortable. It's at 6 years old, we're moving over and now we're in a garage, all of us. Mother, father, siblings, and I'm an emotional guy. That's what we had. And that's when I discovered I was different. I didn't look like people on the street, on the block, friends. People ask, where do you live? 1-car garage, bunk beds built on the wall, box for your stuff. And how I got through it was a person, Danny Salazar. he was a friend that would bring me over. And then I noticed something on his in his room. He had a helmet. He had this football helmet. I'm like, whoa, you play football? I only seen it, on TV. You play football? Yeah. Where do you do that? At the park. It wasn't the park next to us, but it was a park probably a couple miles down the road. And so Pops worked hard. We were there throughout elementary school, and we ended up moving. And when we moved across the street from a park. And guess which one that was? All I know is that at this time in the fall, I see hundreds of kids with these football helmets on playing at the park. And I said, Mommy, Daddy, I want to play. And he said, no, you broke your arm. We don't want you to get hurt. And so it took I missed that season. It took another year of convincing until my mom snuck me, did the physical, signed me up, took me over there, and I signed up for football that first time. So I thought that was it. I'm in, done, right? So I get there. Next thing I had to learn was you got to play. And not only that, there's a skill to it. And there are kids that have been playing since they were 7 years old. And so I was one of those ones that everybody liked to go up against when we had our hitting drills, because I was big, but I would fold. And every time I'd lose. Somebody fold me. And I just remember there was this one guy, he hit me so hard. Number 55 neck roll, his name's Jeremy Johnson. He hit me so hard that at that point, when I laid down on the ground, I said, this is it for me, I'm done. So I wanted to quit. So then I go back home and say, okay, I'm done. I don't want to do it anymore. My dad says, nope, you started, you finish. And this was towards the beginning of the season. So I had to finish the whole season just showing up nervous, showing up scared, showing up, not wanting to be there. And throughout me doing that, I ended up making relationships with all of these other people that were on the field, made it through the season. The next season, when that opportunity came around, I didn't want to do it, but I wanted to see my friends, the ones that were there that supported me. They made me feel safe. They made me feel like I belonged. And then I continued playing. And then next thing you know, through going through that and just committing and just showing up, that's it. When adversity hits, show up. There's something on the other side of that. And align yourself with people that make you feel safe. They make you feel like you're supported, and they make you feel like you belong. If you can use that in anything that you do, then adversity is just, you're walking into one. Once you get through it, you're heading to another one. You walk through one, you deal with it. Once you get through it, you head to another one. Mm. So there were other things that happened as I was going through high school, being really challenged academically, wasn't able to make it happen until there was someone, Miss Nelson, she said, hey, you can actually do something with this football thing, and I'm going to help you. She's the one that explained college. She's the one that, helped me with the studies. She's the one that helped me and put me in line with counselors and things like that to move it forward. And so people, it's like, find yourself those people that make you feel safe, make you feel supported, and make you feel like you belong.
Whoa, finger snaps. Oh my goodness, you making me cry over here, man. Woo! And I just want to give a shout out to Marcus, who says it's okay to show emotions. It shows your humanity and your sensitivity. You're getting shout outs there on the chat, love. Thank you so much for showing your humanity to us and allow us to feel like we could be human on this machine. We're surrounded by machines every day, people. Let's be human.
Yeah.
And Love, who says, when adversity arrives, you show up. Show up. They say that adversity makes some people break, but it makes others break records. And what I see here on the screen from your powerful stories is record breakers. So thank you for the company, for the honor of being in your company. Woo! Okay, audience, shout out to you. Students, how's it going out there? High school students, shout out to you. I know some of you are watching with your teachers right now. Community college students, shout out to you. I know you're watching. College students and also educators, thank you for being here. I know there's a few administrators, some of my homies out there watching. Thank you for being here as well. And now I want to move on. Oh, and by the way, audience, I just want to say that please, if you have questions, go ahead, put them in the chat. I'll go ahead and moderate those at the end of the presentation here. But you can start putting those questions in, and I'll go ahead and keep track of those. So moving along, all three of you work with at promise populations, whether they're little itty bitties or whether they're full-grown adults. And all three of you currently and in the past have worked with some of the most vulnerable students out there. So tell us a little bit about the work you do and you've done with At Promise students, At Promise young people. How do you motivate them? And what do you tell them? What is the recipe for success that you give them when you work with them? Let's start with Juan.
Yeah, so there's just so many things I could share. So it's kind of hard to narrow it down just to a few. But I would say two things: networking, and also the second one is like realize that your mind is a battlefield. So to touch on the first one is networking is, man, get to know people, love on people, make connections. Don't be that person that has toxic relationships all over, because when you have friendships, when you have relationships that are positive, you're building on, you're basically making your own family. See, your biological family is a family that you're born into. You don't have a choice, but you also can make a different family that you can connect with people. And sometimes when you don't have anyone else to fall back on, when you're going through a tough time, those networks that you build, those relationships that you build, those are the ones that are really going to get you through tough times. And I just think about my life personally. That's something I learned too through my struggles, is just serving people, getting to know people, connecting with them, trying to figure out who they are, why they are the way they are. And when I was going through certain difficult times, I can call somebody up and say, hey Scott, I need help. Can you help me out? And he was there. Just I can name quite a few people. The other thing will be, as I said, your mind is a battlefield. So I see this as a strategy, is that you got to realize that your mind is always moving constantly. You have so many thoughts that are going in and out, and a lot of people, I realize, they don't have a way to filter some toxic thoughts out. It just overcome them. People start ruminating. They start just chewing on those thoughts, and that's what kind of makes you feel depressed, makes you feel beat down. And I mean, I've been there myself too. Whenever I've had moments where I felt inadequate, I feel like I didn't belong, or just those thoughts could eat you apart, So it's just a matter of realizing that, hey, I gotta find a way to train my thoughts to take those negative thoughts captive, and also just speak truth inside of my mind. If there might be people who already might be speaking truth into you, but if you sometimes you got to do it to yourself too. I've had to stand in front of a mirror before plenty of times and just tell myself that, hey, you are worth it. You have a purpose, that you are somebody that has something to offer to other people. And so if that might be you today, I'm going to encourage you also just to do that. Speak to yourself in front of the mirror. Just tell yourself all the things that you want to see yourself become. Really, like in a way, you're speaking that person into existence. You may not feel like that's who you are today, but you're speaking life into yourself. Your tongue is your words. They're powerful. You know, what you say, it's just a matter of the way you think, the way you talk.
Yeah, that's powerful. Students that are watching, I just want to let you know, related to what Juan is saying, when I was a teenager, I look in the mirror and I'd see an ugly person. Oh, I see, a failure. I would see someone I hated. And that's because I was raised to hate myself. The streets raised me to hate myself. My mom had a lot of issues. And so she raised me to hate myself. And so I would see the mirror and I would hate myself. And it wasn't until I was an adult that I could do what Juan is talking about doing. You face that mirror and you got to be your number one fan, your number one promoter, your number one advocate. And you say, hey, you got this. I believe in you. You're amazing. And you got to do that every day, because if you don't do it, no one else will do it for you. No one else will tell you, hey, you're amazing. You're incredible. You got this. When you're like looking at the mirror like I was and saying, you're a failure, you're dumb, and you're ugly. So it's very important to develop that self-concept. I can do this. Juan says it poetically. He says that you speak, say it, Juan, you speaking your future self.
Yeah, you're speaking that person into existence.
You're speaking that person into existence. Man, y'all don't even need me on this call. Juan's got the articulation of it. You're speaking that person into existence.
I do want to say this other thing too, is the person that says I can't and the person that says I can are both right.
Ooh, finger snaps all around.
He's going to be our next teacher. He has them all down. Belong in the classroom, influencing young minds.
Is right. I'm taking notes. All right, Doctor. Yeah, you're never too old to learn. Okay, love. I'm 77, man. So me and you, we're siblings from the 70s.
Right.
And all right, let's move on. Dr. Cecchine, tell me, how do you empower these young ladies when they're being told by society, you don't belong on this mat, you don't belong as a wrestler, you don't belong, and that's an allegory for the world. You don't belong in the corporate world. You don't belong as a leader.
Sure. Yeah, so I've been blessed to be able to teach, like Dr. Rios said, a lot of grade levels. I actually teach adult education right now, which is in a small town. I live in Lompoc, California. And these are students who may have not graduated for a variety of reasons, but they're all ages. And what I've come to realize is they are lacking that intrinsic motivation that my high school students are lacking, some of them, and that keeps them from pursuing their goals. So I want to go back to, if someone's ever told you you're not good enough or you can't do it, that really is a reflection of them. It has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with them and their own failure. And that's something that I really like to instill in my females. So I do teach kindergarten through third. I am at a school that's 98% minority-based, low income. So we are all under the poverty line here. It is very important these young women and young boys get these messages of self-love, that they know that they can do something, even if they try it the first time or the second time and they fail, that they're persistent and resilient, and they may not have that skill, but they can develop others. I think that often our parents don't understand how to talk to our students either, their own children. I experienced that, right? Like my mom didn't really understand how to talk to me and teach me to love myself. So I'm no stranger to that in my children. And as I watched them grow, I started to work with younger kids in wrestling because of this. So to circle back to your question, I work with young girls 14 to 18, and I coach them on and off the mat. So it's really important that they feel so confident that they won't walk into a wrestling room without me being there, and I want them to feel comfortable. This is a battle in myself that I've been fighting as a female coach. I've coached males for the first 5 years of my coaching experience, and then I switched to females when CIF in California separated the two sports. And it's constant negative feedback to me as myself. I'm not good enough. I shouldn't be on the mat. I shouldn't be coaching. So I'm still getting these messages as an adult. And it's important that I role model the correct behavior for my females. And I keep showing up. I know I'm competent in what I'm doing. I know that my girls are successful. That might not always mean they're winning their matches, but they're successful in their growth. And as long as that keeps happening, the environment, as I mentioned earlier, it is only temporary, starts to change. You keep showing up to face these adversities, right? As my colleague says, you keep showing up to fight these battles when people tell you you can't do it. And I love wrestling so much. I will always do it, no matter what people tell me. I currently compete in jiu-jitsu as well. And so that's a sport that is meant for smaller people. So it's actually a little more welcoming, but nonetheless, still male dominated. And so that's something that I'm fighting as my intrinsic battle, is teaching these young women to find their space, to tell themselves they are beautiful, they are worth it. A strategy I have is to actually write on your mirror. I do that, and I write myself positive notes, and I read them every morning, and that helps a lot. And for me, getting through all of this struggle was my artwork. I really love drawing and painting, and it was something that when I felt the worst, I would go to. So I know that right now we're kind of like in this COVID situation. But we will talk about that, I think, in a little bit, some strategies to kind of get you through what you might be feeling. But the bottom line is, you are your biggest cheerleader. How can you help people feel better and just be the positive person in their life? Like, be the light that's not there. And for me, it's fighting through a lot of negativity that's weighed down on me. But I really love the sport. And I think if you're passionate about something, that will shine through, and they'll be able to see it and they'll listen. So not something that I've won yet. I'll have to say it's still a struggle. But Dr. Rios did mention I did create a foundation, Feminism, Wrestling, Equality, in this quarantine time. So if there are any female wrestlers out there, I do have 2 $1,000 scholarships I raised funds for. And you can visit my website, and that will be posted in the chat. It's drterricececchine.com. And please, if you know anybody that is interested, I am trying to help women find their space, figuratively and literally, on the mat. So please help me out. Thank you.
That is wonderful. Wonderful. Hey, how about this strategy, students? Put some positive notes on your mirror, whether you write on it or whether you put stickies on it. Just positive messaging to yourself. Take care of yourself, because if you can't take care of yourself, how can you take care of the world? How can you take care of your little brother? How can you take care of your loved ones? How can you take care of the homies? How can you take care of your mom or your grandma? You can't take care of yourself. How are you going to take care of our communities? How are you going to take care of our world, of our country? So take care of yourself, and you'll see, treating yourself kindly and positively will make a difference, young people. All right, Love. So tell us a little bit about the work you do with young people. I know you and I were featured in the film, The Pushouts, that aired on PBS, with our work in Watts with young people out there. And I'll put a link there to the Pushouts. But tell us a little bit about that incredible team building work you bring from your experience being an elite athlete, but also having the heart that you have.
Yeah, it's team building and personal growth. That's where I live. I live in that. And it's funny that we're talking about the mirror, because that's my advice is, people in general spend more time looking out the mirror or looking out the window than they do looking in the mirror. And so when you spend that time, looking at yourself and growing those internal skills, like, that's going to benefit you in the long run in life. Like, when I'm training people to know how to get into that dream job that they want, to get into that dream place that they want, and know how to feel like they belong there because they know how to engage with folks via the relationships and the understanding of who they are. And there's like 3 things that I think are very fundamental in all of that. And you just got to believe it. If you don't believe it, if you're iffy on it, if you're not really buying into it, then you can't use it as a strategy. And we've heard it before, but life's a journey. And when we hear that, like a journey, yeah, life's a journey. And not only is it a journey, it's also a process. And it's already have been mapped out for you to understand. You're actually indulging and engaging that every time you watch a movie. Like you're watching the journey of a character go through these phases in a process that's already been documented. And as a matter of fact, it's been historically in our culture for centuries and generations. And what I'm referring to is something called The Hero's Journey by Joseph Campbell. Look into it, YouTube, Hero's Journey. And what it'll show you is that through this process of becoming that full self or that new self or that better self, you go through this call to adventure, this thing that you feel like you want more of, but for some reason you don't step into it. And then you're pushed into it. And then you meet a mentor. And then you leave this ordinary world, into this new scary world. And then you have to battle things. You have to deal with adversity and move through it. And then you have to let go of who you were to step into the new you. And then you get to find what the treasure is, the treasure, that discovery, that skill, that talent, that thing that you have, that art that you can use. And then you use that to bring it back to the community. They call it the elixir, that's used for healing. But it's not the healing of yourself, it's the healing of others. So when we go through this process of this journey, everything that we're doing is for others when we return. And I'll close it kind of with this quote that just shifted me. It changed my life. He said, "In the cave you fear to enter lies the treasure you seek." Marinate on that. In the cave you fear to enter lies the treasure you seek. Whatever you're hesitant about, whatever's too hard, that adversity, whatever it is, you show up, you push through. On the other side of that, you become Neo with the Kung Fu in the Matrix, or Luke Skywalker, or Indiana Jones, or you name it. You name a movie, it's moving down that arc. And that's why it resonates, and that's why we go, because it's pumping inside of us. So what we need to do is look at where we are in the journey and know that we're just part of the process. We're at some point of that process, and be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself.
Wow. We're all in search of that special elixir, the juice that's going to transform our life. And you know what, students? Love is absolutely right. I was terrified of going to college because I was taught you're dumb. You don't belong in college. Mm-hmm. I stopped reading, writing, and doing math 3rd grade all the way to 11th grade. Dropped out 3 times from school, 8th grade, 9th grade, and 10th grade. Behind years. A lot of teachers right now are calling this the learning loss. The newspapers, Google it, learning loss. LA Times, New York, learning loss. There's always a way to place a deficit on us. You are learning losers, right? And they mean it with the best intention. They're saying is we're losing them because they're losing learning, and therefore they are losers. And the logic has to change. Instead, educators, let's not call it learning loss, or let's acknowledge that there has been, a pause in our learning. But instead of a learning loss, let's call it an emotional gain. Because on this screen, as you have seen today with these beautiful stories, you can inspire, motivate, and teach young people, as Love calls it, the 21st century skills those character skills, those emotional skills that are going to get them through this quarantine, through a global pandemic, and then into the professional world once this is all over. Corporations right now are saying we're not taking any more credentials and high GPAs. That's not what we're looking for. What we're looking for is those essential skills that will tell us if you can get along with other employees, if you know how to solve problems, if you go through crisis, can you get over it? You know, do you have the resilience? And a lot of our marginalized children have resilience because they're survivors and they're shapeshifters, just like these incredible shapeshifters on screen today. That was powerful. Thank you, love.
Yeah.
All right. So there's a teacher, I believe, that has a question, and it's Cindy Shattler. How do you help students? And I'm gonna open this up to all of you so you can respond in whatever order you want. How do you help students to respond with resilience in the face of failure? I want the students who are not passing, who have to drop, to come out with a sense of hope and their capacity to succeed, even if they haven't yet passed the class. So I want them to have hope, even though they've been told you're pretty much failing.
I got a thought on that. You know, we have to look at really what failure is. Failure is what created these phones and things that we're using in technology, and that has built everything that's around us. You know, it's making attempts and attempts and attempts, but looking at it as an opportunity to grow from it. And so something when working with someone who feels or they see according to whatever it is that they need to be doing within a class setting, or when they think that they fail, you know, I let them know that, well, that's your first attempt in learning. Now, all you have to do is look at that opportunity. If you've shown up, if you've given it a try, if you attempt to do something, then that's what you can use it. You can use it to be able to look at what it is that you can build from. And so it's shifting that mindset, and it's like going to that asset-based thinking, where it's like something that's a negative, you know, shift it to a positive and letting them know, okay, well, you're not going to pass this. However, you can come out of this stronger if we can learn from this. And so it's looking at shifting that mentality, or reframing just what we agree the word failure means. You know, a lot of failures have created a lot of successes. So it's not the end of the road. It's actually the beginning, if they choose and they decide to do the work. And if we give them that love, and that encouragement and that support, then that will change how they feel. And when they feel different, they'll behave differently. And that's my thought on it.
Can I share? So I echo love this feeling of acceptance. And I also want to talk to the educators, and that we can probably all understand that our curriculum is very outdated, first of all. Second of all, underlying are those basic skills that our kids might need. It might not be that they have to read Shakespeare and answer these questions. Rather, can they analyze and critique a text? Because that might be something they have to do in their job. They might have to be analytical. They might have to be critical. And I've taught continued education. I've taught probation high school. And that's what it comes down to for some of these kids who, you're right, they might not be able to pass the Casey exam or the SAT. But that's not our goal for these kids. Our goal is to teach them the skills where they're going to be able to have a job later in life to support their family, where they're going to be able to communicate with people in a way that's acceptable in the world we live in. We want them to be outstanding citizens. We want them to be able to go out and have a good life and care for their loved ones, and have somewhat of that liberation where they're not weighed down by our system, and our system weighs them down. It is very heavy. And I think that as educators, something I always try to do is let them know, and this might be a conversation you don't have in front of everybody, but their goals are different. And that's where that self-love comes in, and that self-motivation is where you can help them to realize that they are worth it and they do have a value. It might not be getting an A in your class. That's not the goal. The goal is for them to be able to critique a situation and make the right decision. And some of our kids need those skills a lot more than they need to know how to write a paper. And that's where I come in with this mindset, because working with a lot of youth that come straight from the juvenile hall, they already feel like they've lost. They feel like their lives are worthless already. So they don't know that they have skills. Their self-esteem is really low. And this is where I start. I start with just the basics. Like, let's go over these skills we're going to develop for you. And it might look a lot different. And that's what we do as educators. We take the time to do that.
That's great. That's great. Juan, any input?
Yeah. I also want to piggyback on all that. And just like Dr. Cecchine said, is that the school curriculum, I see it also as outdated as well. At the PATH Project, the organization I work for, we work with children in trailer park communities, and we're also just trying to figure out. We've been having discussions of how to reimagine our programs, because what we usually have done has been more of focusing on how to help the students pass the classes, how to make sure that they move on to the next grade, and how to graduate school. But now we're trying to figure out more of what's really important, what really matters most, and we're switching more over to doing signature learning experiences, where they experience certain they go through certain experiences and learn different essential skills, as you guys were mentioning. And some of that might even look like learning how to address a letter. When I graduated high school, I didn't even know how to address an envelope to send it. And I was 18, 19 years old when I first learned that. And if we do that, I sat down with some of my middle school students this past couple of years also to do the same thing. And some of them struggled with that. So I had to teach them that, and also just trying to figure out how to build confidence in them to realize that the skills that they have may not be skills that other people have. So there, some of these kids who live in the trailer parks, they have certain skills that are specific to their environment, to their living situation, and so we can find a way to hone those skills so that they can develop and they continue to grow, and not so that they won't feel inadequate in a way, because when they're measuring up to the way the school system is set up, most of them just feel like, man, I can't do it. I'm not good enough. And that's how they quit so easily. I mean, I was kind of the same way too, where I wanted to quit so many times.
Wow.
Yeah, just trying to figure out how to get them to experience different things, whether if it's working with people, connecting with, learning how to manage your emotions, learning how to communicate with peers or adults, and knowing how to just how to handle different things,
Wonderful. Well, Juan, on behalf of my family, on behalf of our network and scholar system, I know you work with some of the most vulnerable youth, those in the trailer park, and I know they need resources. So we'll be donating $500 to PATH Project. I know that Love and Terri have also committed to donating some funds. And whoever is on the call now, if you're interested in donating to a good cause, I know some of you already work with youth that are very vulnerable, but if you have the capability, PATH Project, you'll see the link pop up right now in this final minute. Please go there, donate. You'll get instructions there. But they're doing incredible work. Some of the most affected communities of young people. And Juan is there every day, even right now during quarantine. He's there all the time working with these young people directly. So thank you, Juan, for doing that work. Thank you, Love, for your incredible mission that you have always followed. Thank you, Terri, for empowering our young people. Really appreciate and honored to be on this call with all of you. Teachers, thank you for being here. Students, thank you, especially to you. Shout out to you for staying this whole hour. Yeah. And because you're hungry, you want that knowledge. How do I make it through? Well, you got some good pointers today, how to make it through adversity. Keep walking in your greatness. Take care, everyone. Peace. Thank you for joining us.